Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for joining me for Daily Spark with Dr. Angela. I'm your host, Dr. Angela Chester. You guys know who I am, and you know what I like to do on my show. Say it with me. I want to enlighten, inspire, and empower you to become your best self. The scripture reminds us that the tongue is a small thing that makes grand speeches, but a tiny spark can set a great forest on fire. And that's what we want to do today. We want to get you fired up about my guest. Today, I'll be spending time with Suzanne Horton, LMHC, and we'll be talking about our Black History series. Still we rise, still we lead. She's a licensed mental health therapist and the founder of the Caregivers Grief Commission. So you know what I'm going to tell you to do. Go on, get comfy, get cozy, get your coffee or get your tea because we are about to get started. Hello, Suzanne. Thank you so much for joining me here on Daily Spark with Dr. Angela.
Hello.
I am so excited to have you on and to talk about the all that you do. But I realize that I might be introducing you to some new people out there. So before we get started, I do want to ask first question. Tell us a little bit about yourself. What makes you you?
So I'm Suzanne Horton, and I have been a licensed mental health counselor for 15 plus years working in the field. And I am a counselor because my dad was a counselor and he believed in service and he taught me service. And that's what led me to want to have the desire to help people more.
I love that. As someone who comes from a civic mandate family as well, I love how we are able to pick up the mantle and continue to walk in that legacy. And we definitely need more people working in mental health from a positive perspective. So, applause there. Now, I understand that you spent years caring for your father and witnessing his final days. So, as a self-proclaimed daddy's girl in a positive way, how did that season reshape the way you understand meaning and purpose, like legacy and responsibility? Not necessarily each one of those, but just collectively, how did you gather that and settle it within your own spirit?
Yeah, it was a 5 year journey with my dad, and my dad raised me. And so being with him during that time, I loved it. And I was happy that I was able to be there to be present to do it. But at the same
Yeah,
time, it was hard, right? Like it was hard
yeah,
to be there every day doing all the stuff while watching him decline and not being able to fix it. And so
yeah,
there are lots of moments where I look back and recognize how what the need is there in terms of supporting caregivers through the process instead of just waiting until we identify as society that grief starts, which is when a person dies most of the time.
yeah.
And so, but we need some help because if we don't start implementing resources earlier, then by the time death comes, we're going to be struggling. And it's harder to get out of that pit once you're in the pit.
hmm hmm Now, I tell you, I am I loved my dad, my papa up one side and down the other. Just not that my mom wasn't an awesome and amazing person or anything like that,
Yeah,
but it's
yeah,
like I'm a daddy's girl. So
yeah,
I definitely understand, just operating from that perspective and just the hurt that it brings because it's like this is my person and they're not
yeah.
doing well, and how your heart breaks for that. So thank you for taking that experience, that lived experience, and helping others get through it as well. I find that so many people are motivated by the things that have happened to them and want to help
Yeah.
others, get through that. Now, with that being said, you did notice that there was a gap in how family caregivers are supported after loss. What was the moment for you when you realized that you couldn't turn away from that gap? That, yes, this is one of the purposes of your life is to bridge that gap for others.
Yeah, I think that after my dad passed, part of my process of healing for myself was I started writing. And as I started writing and journaling, something came out of that. God developed something within that and gave me a model for what the grief road related to caregiving really looks like, from the first yes all the way to what's next after a
Mm,
person passes. And that can be in any given moment, like from each stage of the decline or the changes in the health and the needs, responsibilities that you're picking up as well. And
mhm.
so I think that it was interesting because even though I am a provider, right, and have all this knowledge and all this experience, during it, there were plenty of moments where there was this space that didn't link up to pulling on that information. And so
Right. Mhm.
afterwards, when I had time to kind of step back and breathe a little, I was like, this is crazy. And we've got to do something different in terms of the needs to support this dynamic to be healthier for people. And so, in
Mhm.
noticing that gap, I was able to say, let's take this model and let's start giving people something that helps them put a name to what they're experiencing, and then some skills
Mhm.
and tools as well to begin to deal with all of the different moments that are developing. And the reality is there isn't a lot of support out there specifically for the caregiver and their process
Mhm.
through the transition. Most caregiving roles last 4 to 8 years. And 4 to 8 years
Oh,
of constantly being in that hypervigilant state, people are broke afterwards. And so there's not even space to do grieving from loss of death because we're so
yeah.
focused on all the other pieces that have happened. And so we need some tools. And the way my dad taught me is that, right, like we gain purpose from who we are. And that's my gift. My gift is here to serve. And so why wouldn't I take something that I learned and God built in me through that process and give back to others through it?
Hmm. Hmm. Oh my goodness. I don't think that the average person realizes that time frame that you gave, that 4 to 6, 8 years. Like, wow. That's to put it in perspective, that's, your child or your grandchild starting high school and graduating. Like how people
Yeah,
go, wow, where did the time go?
exactly.
Like that's the amount of time. That's wow. I don't think people have grasped that part of it. And then understanding that you're right, they don't have time to properly grieve or even get into that grief space because you're still dealing with the residual caretaker stuff. I
Yeah.
don't think people realize that as well. Now, I like that you talk about leadership from the perspective of how leadership emerged for you in the tension between the grief and the responsibility, and what it did to help you understand that leading isn't just one thing, that it is actively all things at any particular time, and you change your hat according to the phase and stage that you're in.
Yeah.
Why is it important to share that with others?
Because I think most people, and especially in minority communities, we just think it's our responsibility to take on. We're just here helping, and we don't see it as a real role. But you're standing in as a nurse, you're standing in as a bath aide, you're standing in all of these roles that people actually get paid for, but we don't have the skill set. Nobody stopped to teach you any of these things. And so you just jump in and you say yes because we love them. And then through the process, we get kind of worn down, but we still do it anyways because we love them. And that gets in the way of us paying attention to our own needs throughout the process so that we can take care of ourselves, so we can actually keep showing up for that long
Mhm.
duration of time to support whatever that dynamic is happening with our family.
Mhm. Mhm. I like how you had a very honest and vulnerable moment there, and I'm sure there are others who can agree that our education gives us such a great foundation. However, when we are having a human moment and we're dealing with something, especially when it pertains to our parents or our loved ones, that training helps, of course, the education helps, of course, but you are still, that's my parent, that's my loved one,
Yeah.
that's my friend, right? And it for a moment kind of pauses while you have this very human experience. So let me ask you along that vein, as a licensed mental health therapist, how did your professional training both support and challenge you, if it did, when you were in the capacity of caregiver? Did you find that it brought you any sense of comfort, or did it illuminate the path at all? Or did you find that it helped you in more so just being the fuel that kind of helped you sustain a sense of calm and rational thought as you were having the experience?
I love that last comment, common rational thought. When I think back to all of the moments, there were plenty of moments where I was not feeling very calm and rational. And I, I teach my clients, right, like communication skills and boundaries and all the things. And one of the things that I think is really important as a provider is that we recognize and acknowledge to our clients that we're a human being too, and we have all of the
Yeah.
emotions that you're having, but we practice using the skills, hopefully, that we are teaching you. And so there were plenty of moments that I
Yeah.
had that come to Jesus and said, okay, Suzanne, you need to get it together because the doctor can't hear you when you have that tone. And the people are not going to show up to support you when you have an attitude with them. And so there were plenty of those moments where I had to step back and say, okay, you teach this, you need to use it. And
Mhm.
so that was part of what went into some of the dynamics of the skill sets that I thought was important for people to be able to have and in a quick way that doesn't feel like it's adding more weight or responsibility to the
Mhm.
experience. So learning how to make the hard decisions that I didn't plan on making for this person. Learning how to accept that my parent is still the decision maker and gets to decide if they want to take this medication or don't. That if they want to have this specific testing or don't. I am here as the support for their journey. I'm not here managing them like I am their parent. I'm not taking over. And it took me quite a while to step back because when I don't take over, when I'm not being responsible with all the pieces and saying, okay, we have to do this, or I'm
Mhm.
deciding that we do this because it keeps you alive, I have to recognize that may not be what they want.
As someone who is Gen Xers, I think, speaking from my perspective, as someone who's a part of Gen X, many of us are now in that sandwich generation, right? It's
Yeah,
not just about, born in the 70s and we're in the 80s, baby.
yeah,
Now our parents are, in their 80s, some are perhaps even in their 90s. And you said a very key thing there, and that is I am not making the decision for my parent. My parent is still making the decision. And having to be just the caretaker and not parent your parent, even
yeah.
though our desire is to kind of take over and go, I need to make this decision for you, right? Because I want to make sure that you're fine. And being able to resist that natural inclination of taking over and kicking in to defend and take care of our parent. I think for someone listening, that is the aha moment for them. That was such a nugget, and that they understand that they are not alone in this, and that this is not just their experience, but so many people are dealing with that as well. Ah, yes, thank you for that. Well, Suzanne, it is time for us to take a very short break. But before we do, if someone wants to visit you online or check you out on socials, what is the best way to do that?
Yep, on both Facebook and Instagram, Threads, LinkedIn, you can find us at familyofstandards.com. The website is in a revamp right now. It is up and available, but there's some new stuff coming, a brand new look there. And again, that is also at familyofstandards.com.
I love it. Alrighty, everyone. Now you know where you can visit. We'll be back right after this. And we are back. Thank you so much for joining me for Daily Spark with Dr. Angela. I'm your host, Dr. Angela Bunchester. My guest today is Suzanne Horton. She is a licensed mental health therapist and founder of the Caregivers Grief Commission. Let's jump back into our conversation. So, Suzanne, the Caregivers Grief Commission is peer-led and rooted in lived experiences. Why was that model essential for the kind of healing work that you wanted to create?
I think that peer-led has an avenue and an access point for other caregivers, because unlike most therapy that I think it's important, if people think it's important that the person have experienced it, there are some specific experiences that make it harder for someone to understand and actually be supportive without that experience. So peer-led looks like somebody who's been in the role, somebody who has sat with their loved one. And my story is with my father, but that loved one could be a grandparent. It could be your child who has a disability. It could be many different avenues or relationships there. And so I think when it comes to the idea of finding what the next step is, having someone who can sit and really listen, somebody I don't have to explain myself to over and over to help them understand, because the reality is I'm on E. Like, as a caregiver, most people are on E. They're on empty in terms of the capacity and energy that they have left to give to anything extra. And so when it comes to resources for us, we need stuff that's not going to add to the load. And so peer-led supports that dynamic to be more functional and more useful when they do reach out for the resources.
Oh, that leads greatly into my next question for you. Caregivers are unfortunately often unseen, right? And like you said, emotionally exhausted. What do you wish more systems, more institutions, more leaders truly understood about the reality of what caregivers are experiencing?
I think that when it comes to family caregivers, I wish the system would acknowledge us as part of the process. When you're caring, when you're caring for a loved one, then there's a piece for me to do. I am managing all the appointments. I am taking them to these doctor's appointments. I still have a job. I still have, like, I'm still managing my own family. I'm doing so many things that it can be hard to be present. And there's this expectation for me to be on 24/7. And that's whether I'm with you or whether I'm here after everybody leaves and I got to help my dad go to the bathroom or help him get off the floor because he fell down, or if he just has a question in the middle of the night and wants to wake me up. And so we are on 24/7. So as part of the support and care that we are initiating with the person who is sick, we need to have something in addition to that that we hand out to the person doing that 24-hour support to help them know that there are resources for them and how to access those resources. Because there are resources out there. And even as a therapist myself, to be honest, I never considered in 5 years looking for something for myself to manage what I was going through. And so when we talk about grief and bereavement and this experience, it's a natural thing as a part of the life cycle that a lot of communities, especially in our minority communities, that we do. It's a part of our normal life. And so that shouldn't require us having to access counseling outside of this dynamic, what's happening. It should be seen as a whole family system issue so that
Yeah.
we can continue showing up from day to day to meet the needs for them and support while we're still taking care of ourselves. We need permission and awareness in order to say, yes, it's okay for me to do something for me today in order to be ready to do something for you.
That definitely is a nugget of wisdom right there. And I like the perspective that you're given of this should just be an extension of our community. This should just be a turn the page, there's additional resources, not the I need to hunt this out. I need to figure it out. I need to know. Do you know someone who knows someone who knows someone? Where do I go? But instead, it should just be something that we know is available. Um, from A to B, from the people who are assisting you, like the medical teams, this should be something
Yeah.
that is expressed from start to finish. I That is such a great point there. Now, the work that you do, and I love that you are continuing on and you were inspired by the work that your dad did. Um, that legacy of service. In what ways do you see yourself continuing the mission that he started, continuing the path that he laid down? What is your hope with that legacy, with the legacy building that you're doing?
Yeah, my dad was all about people, and
Hmm.
he believed in people when they didn't believe in themselves.
Yeah.
And being able to help people see the light when they feel like they're in their deepest moment is a
Hmm.
place that allows me to see when I help them, then they help the next person too. And
Yeah.
so it becomes that pebble in the pond effect. And so we're breaking down the barriers
Mm.
in terms of access to recognizing that it's okay for me to be healed. It's okay for me to be healthy. It's okay for me to take responsibility for self so that I can
Mhm.
show up in the world in a healthy way. One of the things that I kind of focus on a lot and comes to my mind is the recognition that I don't have children. And because I don't have children, when I think of the word legacy, I think of what is going to be beyond me. And that's going to be
Mhm.
the people that I help in every
Yeah.
day that allows them to help somebody else. That's going to be the change that comes as a result of bringing more awareness and more resources to family caregivers. There are
Mhm.
63 million family caregivers in the United States. That's what they're calculating through the AARP um, assessment that they did this last year. And if there's no support and resources for those people, that's my legacy of service to people to change the dynamic of how we're seen, how we're supported, and then how the family functions together in terms of what caregiving looks like.
Mhm. I think you said something very important there, and I definitely want to give it a little bit more attention. And that is, you said that about not having children. I think someone out there too may be thinking, like, how do I build legacy and I don't have any children? The answer was by those that I have helped. And, there have been many celebrities that have talked about that as well, that they too didn't have children. And what is the legacy that you leave behind? The people that you have helped. Flip side of the coin, we have heard many a story by someone who said, I had a teacher that believed in me. I
Yeah.
had an aunt or an uncle, a neighbor, a church member, right? I had someone who believed in me. So it doesn't necessarily building legacy isn't always about the blood person that you are related to. It is about the person that you have connected to, inspired, and really empowered them with the work that you do. So I love that you are continuing to march forward and continue to make a path for those who are going to follow behind. There's a generation out there looking at the work that we do. And what a great way to just help continue to build legacy by being the shoulders that they're able to stand on. So I love that you're doing that. Now, as a part of our Black History series, the theme is Still We Rise, Still We Lead. What does that rising look like to you when leadership is shaped not just by grief, but by understanding that it is okay to walk in ambition that may have been in part fueled by the grief that we have experienced? How do we use that as the fuel to build our legacy?
I think whenever I think of the word grief, I think of grief as a thing, an experience. It's a part of life. And so it's not something that we get over. It's something that we grow through. It's something that we get shaped by. And when we talk about the different stages of that process, the reality is we can choose which direction we're going to go with it. We can choose to let it hurt and feel and become bitter and angry and sad and isolated, or we can choose to go and use it for something that's good. We can use it to support ourselves, to feel stronger, more confident, as well as supporting others. So I think that it is important to identify when we talk about leadership and rising from the hardship. The reality is hardship is what builds resilience within us. Being
Mm.
able to deal with the different stressors that life is going to bring. That's a part of life. Stress is going to happen. Hard stuff is going to happen. And so we want to build the skills in to manage those things so we can grow from that and be ready for whatever is going to come next. Because I believe that that's how God builds us, right? Like he sets us up and he allows us to go through something so that we can learn from it. So when that moment comes, when that hardship comes, we are there to learn something from it to support us for what will be coming in our next season.
Hmm, hmm. Oh, I love that you gave that perspective. And it always makes me think about the wonderful animal kingdom and those animals who have to go through some type of metamorphosis, right? That they have to do a something in order to be their best, and how far too often humans think that they're doing like the little baby turtles, that they're helping them by picking them up and putting them in the water.
Yeah,
And it's like,
yeah,
you're so not. They need to struggle through that sand
yeah,
in order
yeah,
to build up like their arm strength, right? Their little fin strength
yeah,
to be able to swim and take on this really huge ocean that they are about to enter. So that is so true. Do not be discouraged by the potholes, the bumps in the road, the dips that we all have to experience. It really does help build character and fortitude and resilience, and we
yeah.
can definitely parlay that into something else. Suzanne Horton, thank you so much for coming on and speaking with me today. I have enjoyed our conversation. Now, if someone, before I let you go, if someone wants to reach out to you, what is the best way to do that?
Yeah, the best way to do that at this point in time is to go on to Instagram or Facebook and follow us at Family of Standards, or just go ahead and send me a message or a DM and we can get connected in that way. Once the website is up, there'll be the opportunity to contact through there as well. But for right now, just at Family of Standards on Instagram and and Facebook. And if you reach out to me, I will reach back out to you. I believe that connection is a part of growth and development, and this is one of the things that we can't leave anyone behind.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you again for being a guest on the show. And listeners, thank you for spending some time with us here today as well. You could have been anywhere and you chose to spend it with us today, and I thank you for doing so. As always, I hope that we have enlightened, inspired, and empowered you. As always, may the Lord continue to shine his face upon you. May you receive his grace and his mercy in all that you do. Until next time, everyone, remember that you are blessed in the Lord. Have a great day, everyone. Bye-bye.